Hello everyone, hope all of you are doing great. So welcome back to your advanced accounting course, and this week we will continue the accounting for state and local governments, which is chapter 7. So chapter 7 basically is a continuation of chapter 6. If you remember, in your previous chapter you learned different type of unique aspects of the financial reporting that are applicable to state and local governments. We learned about fund accounting, budgets, encumbrances, expenditures, revenue recognitions, interfund transfers, issuance of bonds, and some other topics related to governmental accounting. So here basically we will focus into more complex financial issues that are dealt by any local or state governments. For example, tax abatements, solid waste landfills, defined benefit plans, donated artworks, and we will also focus on the overall financial reporting model for state and local governments. That means we will highlight on the composition of a state or local government's comprehensive annual financial report, which is also widely known as CAFR. State and local governments often face complicated reporting issues. Just like a big, large for-profit corporations, for example, Coca-Cola and Procter and Gamble, state and local governments may need to face very complicated situations or unusual complex issues. You can imagine a big city like Chicago or Boston. They actually deal with $1 billion of budget, and that include a wide array of their monetary resources and costs. And for a vast majority of transactions, you will see that we have these US GAAP standards that you can easily apply. For example, tax collection, tax revenue or bond issuance. So these type of regular events, it is very easy to apply those US GAAP standards. But if a state or local government faces any complicated situations, then this type of US GAAP application is not that easy. So here you will see that sometimes the situation may arise or a new type of transaction is undertaken with an unusual nature or a particular twist, and in this type of situation the US GAAP application is really difficult. And you will see that if a state or local government wants to apply all those US GAAP, it may create some contradictory situations. So you have to remember that for any governmental units, when they have to apply those US GAAPs, the state and local government accountants also need to justify why they are applying these standards. That means they must need to establish the validity of the suggested reporting. And it is also challenging for independent auditors, the CPAs, who actually audit the financial statements, and they certify that the information is presented fairly, and they are following the gap appropriately. So here, one recent statement is issued by the GASB, and in 2015, GASB actually issued this statement, which is the statement number 76, and it is commonly known as the hierarchy of generally accepted accounting principles for state and local governments. So this pronouncement was designed to provide reporting guidance whenever there is any question arises which is related to the conformity of the US GAAP. And according to this statement number 76, which is, I'm repeating, which is also known as the hierarchy of generally accepted accounting principles for state and local governments. So according to this statement, all of those authoritative US GAAPs are categorized into two categories. which is category A, and another is category B. And it is also stated in this statement that category A has more authority than category B. For category A, this is the first level of authoritative rules that are made up of the official statement of the GASB. So those statements are available on the GASB's website. If you remember, last week I actually added the GASB's website as kind of an additional reading that you can explore, and you can figure out those category A rules. And prior to this release of this statement number 76, GASB occasionally issued interpretation to help clarify, explain, or provide more detailed information about various GASB statements. And then over the years, the board issued only a few interpretations and has decided to discontinue any further uses. So going forward, Gatsby will use other methods, and that are kind of discussed and covered in category B. We will discuss it in a minute to provide this type of guidance about US GAAP. However, previously released interpretations that still remain in effect are included in the highest level of authority. So category A is the highest level of authority, and it has more authority than category B. So now let's talk about category B. So this category B is the second level, and that is made up of GASB's technical bulletins. So GASB's implementation guides and any literature of the AICPA that has been cleared by GASB. Again, specific listings of these resources can be found on GASB's websites. So it basically covers the technical bulletins, and those are created when needed to serve much the same functions as the interpretation described previously. So technical bulletins basically outline the practical guidance concerning GASB's statement, and they can be issued by GASB in a shorter period of time to provide solutions for presenting reporting problems. So in the past, the technical bulletins have not been frequently developed but can still be released whenever a majority of the board does not object to a proposed method of reporting. And in this manner, GASB has an official procedure by which reporting problems can be addressed quickly. And implementation guides actually clarify, explain, or elaborate on existing US GAAP for state and local governments. And in contrast to technical bulletins, they do not go beyond that function. Therefore, they do not establish the acceptability of new approaches to reporting issues, because implementation guides tend to have a broader impact and less urgency. A period of public exposure provides a chance for feedback that can highlight potential problems before the guide is issued. Like technical bulletins, this type of implementation guidelines, they are only released when a majority of the board does not object to the guidance being given. So this category B and the technical bulletins, that's kind of serve the same function as the interpretations, and to establish the validity of a proposed reporting treatment, accountants for or the auditors for a governmental unit first look into the category A, and if they don't find any appropriate answer for a specific situation or for a specific accounting treatment, they will check category B. But remember, category A has the highest authority, and of course the authority is greater than category B. Now we will learn about another new GASB statement, which is a statement number 77, and that is related to tax abatements. So basically, before 2015, state or local governments are not required to disclose any type of tax incentives that they are giving to any business unit entities. So we all know that sometimes in city or in a state government, they can offer tax rebates or tax brackets to invite any for-profit or any public companies to establish their headquarter offices in that city. So basically here, before 2015, the state governments usually uh, do not disclose any type of information. But these type of tax abatement or tax incentives could be in a huge amount. And basically, if you see some examples, one of the examples that is mentioned in the tax textbook, and that is for the city of Fort Worth, Texas, and they mentioned that in 2014, the city actually listed 18 ongoing tax abatement programs that are provided to individual companies in exchange for their commitments that they will give benefit to their city and thus its citizens. So basically, when one business corporation wants to establish its offices or headquarters or its factory in a specific city, it is expected that it will open employment opportunities or it will provide some other revenue sources for the government. So the government is usually the governmental entities give different type of tax brackets, and I think you all are familiar with recent Amazon cases. So when Amazon decided that they want to establish their second headquarters, different cities were trying to attract Amazon, and they are offering different type of tax brackets and tax. Now you can imagine this is huge amount of tax a city is sacrificing to attract these Amazon's headquarters, and there are several other examples or across the countries, and there might be a huge debate whether the governmental entity is making a good decision, whether they should give this type of huge tax incentives to business enterprises, or rather they need to invest on their other public services, for example, their education systems or public transportations or utility services. So when New York New York State and Long Island City decided to give these tax brackets, there was a huge outcry, and public actually protested whether this type of tax bracket is reasonable. So here, after this 2015 tax abatement disclosures, so now it is required for all state and local governments that they must need to disclose all type of information. So you can think of this tax abatement, it's kind of not exactly a pure transactions, but of course you can call it, it's kind of the exchange promise, because this is the promise between the company, business enterprise, and the city, that they are getting these incentives in exchange of other benefits to its citizens or its residents. So now how you can record it? It's really complicated to record this type of transactions and this type of promise, but Gatsby actually required it to disclose every detailed information, because this type of disclosure is all might be also challenging, because you need to decide what to disclose, how much to disclose, or whether disclosing this type of information would be costly, and whether it would be too much information. Because disclosure is mandatory, you need to provide all type of disclosures to make sure your financial statement is fairly presented for your fair representations, but you cannot overwhelm the readers after presenting too much in created. So now here we will see um, Gatsby's detail about this statement. So this statement says that the governmental unit must need to disclose the purpose of the tax abatement program, what is the reason for giving these tax incentives, and what type of tax is being abated. It could be property tax or sales tax or any other type of tax that should be disclosed properly, and of course the dollar amount of taxes. And remember, for these type of tax incentives is usually given for a certain period of time, maybe for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and the commitment from the company's perspective is that they will keep their facilities or keep their operations in that city, or they will do some other type of constructions of a new facilities. So everything, every detail of this type of tax abatement program must need to disclose, and also they need to disclose what type of job promises and other commitments that the businesses are making to avoid paying tax. So these, any other type of commitment. So this statement, it is expected that after this statement, it will be better for the external users or for the public to know about governmental decisions and to know about the purpose and the details of these tax abatement disclosures. So far from this chapter, we just learned two recent GASB statements that actually Gatsby made this statement in 2015. One is a statement number 76, which actually showed the hierarchy of the gap for governmental entities, and this is kind of the authoritative hierarchy. And you learned about two categories, category A and category B, or category A has more authority than category B. And then we learned about the another statement, which is a statement number 77, and this statement actually discussed about the requirement of disclosures that are related to tax abatement program.